you and I were having this conversation the other day about certain goals of things that we would like to have, right? Material goals, and how that's evolved over time. And of course those things evolve because your life changes as kids are born, as kids grow, those are things that really impact life changes. And that's never talked about when we host the annual awards, so to speak. We never look at what's left after the dust settles. Welcome everyone to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. And gosh, can you believe it? We are heading right into the fourth quarter of 2025, which for most of you, that means business planning season is here. And last year, Garrett and I hosted our GPS workshop, and we redefine what business planning looks like for people. And we talked about how it's not necessarily just a time of year thing, it's an all-time thing. And I had a great conversation with a client yesterday who said, that session changed the way I look at how I harmonize my life and my business together. And I'm paraphrasing him, but he's like, I've accomplished some great life goals after going through that session. So we're doing it again. And we would love for you to join us. And the cool part is you can sign up just for our business planning, our GPS workshop, and get access to our group coaching program during that time frame. Just go to 10tenths.co and there will be a pop-up and you guys can join us for that. It's starting mid-October. It's going to be incredible. Garrett, I am so excited about this because while I always kind of like business planning season, now that we've created this GPS thing, I'm super stoked because I just love the impact that it's having.
You know what I'm loving about it, and we got awesome feedback from it last year. We still have people, as you're saying, that are talking about it going like, I have approached my whole plan different this year. We were reading the book recently, Who Not How. As a lot of you may know, we review books all the time inside of our community and share the books that we're currently reading. And Who Not How is a book that recently came up, and there's a chapter in there where they talk about running a business and understanding a business. And he talks about the people on the backside that he has that analyze the business and whatnot and the quarterly reports they do. And he talks about like big businesses meet quarterly to sit down and go through what's working, what's not, where's the business at, what are the new quarterly goals. And what I thought was really interesting about it, Matt, is I was like, what's funny? We have all these entrepreneurial realtors, mortgage brokers that we work with in our industry. And all of us have been conditioned to write annual business plans and annual goals. And we've got all this stuff that's so far out that most people lose touch with it and they lose sight with it. And you wonder why nobody checks in with their business plans. And it made me so happy to hear that in the book because I was like, we do that. Like we did that. Like that's how we approach business planning, is actually to come back and say, let's do this every quarter. Let's circle back around on it. Let's have our GPS in hand so we know exactly where we're at, where we're going. And so again, we got very excited because that is how businesses operate. That's how they approach business. And I think it's also interesting, Matt, that most brokerages have quarterly breakdowns, quarterly goals, but they don't teach it to the agents. They do the annuals for the agents. They do the quarterlies for them because they know they're running a business. And then they got all these people running around underneath them. And so I don't know, it kind of hit home for me. And again, I'm excited about business planning this year.
It's going to be amazing. And I think this leads into the topic that we're going to talk about today for the podcast episode, because business planning for a lot of people, it comes down to how much money do I want to make next year, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. We need to know those numbers. We need to know our numbers. But a lot of times it just comes down to that. And then this is what I need to do in my business, but they never correlate it to their lifestyle. Yeah. And I had a conversation with someone, maybe this was a couple months ago. She was mentioning that her goal was to double her business. I said, great. What did you change in terms of your actions and your lifestyle and everything in your business to then go achieve that? And she paused and she said, well, I guess nothing. I just wrote down that was my new goal. And she was on track to have the same year that she had the prior year. Well, no surprise, right? And so I think that's the beauty of when you start to bring in your life goals into this, and this is what we do in our GPS process, is you have so much more to live for. And then work becomes this thing that fuels your life versus life becoming this thing that's supporting your business. And we see so many real estate agents get into that, Garrett. And so we want you guys to join us for the workshop. It's going to be incredible. You can just message us, you can reach out to us, or just go to our website, 10tenths.co. There will be a pop-up. You can click there, but reach out to us if you can't find that, and we will direct you there. But at the end of the day, Garrett, we can go and create a business plan and have this big goal of this number that we're going to, but then what's left on the back end of that? What's left after the closings are done? The commission checks roll in, and we look around and we say, okay, did I build a business that provides for this life that I want to have and create? Or did I build a business that sucked the life out of me? And here's the cool thing too, that we're going to get into. It's not about how much money you make and all this stuff. You can be the top producer and have an amazing life. You can be the worst producer and have a terrible life, and all of the other mixes in between. And what we've found, Garrett, it comes down to is, are you focused on what's left after the business, or are you only focused on the business?
Well, this came up out of a conversation I was having with somebody, and it was like, what's left when all the dust settles, when everything clears and everything's done, and we've run this business for years, and now all of a sudden we can look back and go, I'm a really successful business person. Look at the money I've made. Look at how many homes I've sold. Look at how many people I've affected, and then we turn around and we go, where'd all my people go? Like my real people, like my core people, like the friends that I used to have that I'm not really hanging out with the way I used to because I got so involved with hitting some of these goals. Whereas my kids have grown, and that time that maybe I had with them to be with them as they were growing up, I can't get that back. I have a spouse that, we wanted to do all these things, but now, we're old and we can't travel the way that we wanted to, and we can't do some of the things that we really wish we could do way back when, or maybe it was traveling with the kids. And this is what I want people to think about. Is like, this is when the dust settles. Like, when everything's said and done, what do you want this to look like? Because we've watched this for years, Matt, where a company will have a really awesome salesperson. They will just crush their goals, they'll crush their numbers. And they're like, we're going to have John come into the office. John, we're going to put him up on stage. We're going to give him an award. We're going to make a big announcement about how he's got the highest production, the highest volume. And there's agents sitting in the room going, nope. I know what he had to sacrifice to get there, and I am not willing to do it. And I think it's interesting, Matt, that so many people look at it as it's not obtainable unless you sacrifice all these things. And it's actually one of the problems I ran into about a year and a half ago, where I had a conflict with a direction we were going in of, but look, I want to share these people that hit these really high numbers and had all this life, and look what they did, all the travel, all the fun, but because their numbers had dropped from the year before just a little bit, we couldn't share it. And it made me so frustrated, because I was like, this person is celebrating they had their best year they ever had, but we're not going to share it. Like, that's not what this is about. Like, this is about building an amazing life that when the dust settles, you walk away and go, what a ride. Like, what a ride. Look at this.
Yeah.
Got to be a whole circle, though.
It's this short-term viewpoint versus this long-term viewpoint, I think is a big part of it. Right. And what you just mentioned too, I remember having those conversations with you, and
I was furious.
Yeah, this is prior to life at 10 tenths, and how do we elevate people and stuff. And this goes back to this conversation I had with Kevin McCarthy, a great agent out of Austin, Texas. And he accomplished 2 really awesome life goals this past year. I won't go into detail on those things, but really great life goals. And I was talking to him, I said, so how do you feel like business has been? He's like, well, business is off a little bit. He's like, but it's sustainable. He's like, I'm good. Like, I'm making enough money for everything that I need. Like, I don't have problems. I'm not having my best year. I would like it to be better, but I've also had the opportunity to accomplish these big life goals. Oh, and by the way, he decided to GC a renovation of his house because he is a GC, but he saved a ton of money with that, made conscious decisions on how he was going to measure his time. And the past year, he's been having a really great life. And I think that is what a lot of people lose sight of when they see these big numbers, and they start to assume, like you said, that, oh, you have to sacrifice life in order to be successful. And I think there's nuance here, because if we look at just the 1 year of this agent going from this to this or that to that, then we miss the entire journey. Because in the beginning, maybe they did sacrifice some things, but maybe their lifestyle was different too. You and I were having this conversation the other day about certain goals of things that we would like to have, right? Material goals, and how that's evolved over time. And of course those things evolve because your life changes. As kids are born, as kids grow, those are things that really impact life changes. And that's never talked about when we host the annual awards, so to speak. We never look at what's left after the dust settles. And I think having that long-term viewpoint can help change everything, and actually all of a sudden reward yourself on the income side too. We've seen that happen a lot with the people.
Well, we were specifically, one of the goals that came up, we were talking about Porsches, because that's where we sometimes go to. And
they're awesome.
But I was looking at how my goal has changed around a Porsche for like all the years since I was a child, of like, someday I want to have a Porsche. And that Porsche, there's a lot of stuff that goes into why that's a goal for me. It's memories of my dad. It's memories of growing up. There's all this stuff. And there are times that I've like pulled it out of my goals of like, is it a goal right now? There's a long time there where I pulled it out because I'm like, I can't fit my family in it. Like it's a silly vehicle for me, because I can't really enjoy it right now the way that I want to, between all the sports and all the stuff, and people go like, oh, you could still, don't cut it out because you could still have it all. Well, yeah, I can, but it's not a driver for me anymore. It's not something that makes me wake up going, let's crush it today, because I have that goal of having that vehicle at that point in time. And I think it's really important to and this is where we get into business planning, like deep level. Is like, what is your drivers right now? How have they changed? What is it that's driving you to be the best you can possibly be? But also really acknowledging all these important pieces around you, because the last thing you want to do is look back on all this and go, what did I really end up with? And let me take a different route on this for a second. When my kids were young, Sarah and I made a point to travel. We lived for 3 months down in Costa Rica. We've done extended trips to Iceland, to Bali, to we have grateful. I'm grateful for the time I've been able to give to them. Out of all the people I've coached, all the business I've done, the stages that I've talked on, all the things, I have much, much, much clearer, better memories of all those trips, day-to-day stuff, the beaches that we hiked on, the rivers that we dammed up and played in, the hikes, the fishing trips, catching tuna, jack tuna down off the coast of, where were we? Costa Rica. Like, you just start putting all this stuff together and you're going like, well, what is the real meaning of all this? That's the meaning of it, by the way. The business is the vehicle to create this incredible life that we want to create. But so often we get so hooked on being number one in the office, and we just tear ourselves apart sometimes. And it's not that I don't want you to have that. It's not that I don't want you to attain those levels if those are important to you. I think we just need to always remember, like, when the dust settles, what is the big picture? What are you trying to grow? What are you trying to achieve? Because it's too often, Matt, that I step back and watch somebody who's at the end of it and going like, I did really good in business.
Yeah.
But they're not in a good place at that point in time.
And I think this is where I decouple business results and life results, because it depends on what you enjoy and who you bring along the journey. Because I look at it too, Garrett, when the dust settles, and what you just explained was time with family was the thing, right?
Yep.
And people are the ultimate ROI. Gary Vee says this all the time, right? If you want the best ROI in anything, it's people. And what I find is when you see a lot of successful business people who are unhappy, they don't have people around them who want to be on that journey with them. Or maybe they don't want to be on that journey. They're just chasing something that's not meaningful for them, which, that's bummer. But sometimes you find people on that journey that they're like, I just really love this, but I'm kind of miserable over here. And it's because the people around them aren't on the same page. Now, it doesn't mean you need to change the people necessarily. I think you need to change the conversation around what is there, right? Because using Gary Vee as an example, I think from the public image, like the guy works all the time. He talks about it and he loves it. That's like what he loves to do. And so he surrounds himself with people who love to do that as well. And that can provide an incredible life if that is what you enjoy doing. I think back to in college when I started a business in college with one of my friends, and we would, I would work a lot of times on Friday nights and sometimes Saturday nights instead of going out and partying. And sometimes I'd mix the two together, which that was always interesting. But some of my greatest memories from college are my business partner and I standing in the dorm room, counting our money from the night, looking at, oh, look, we were profitable this month, or we just got a new contract with this restaurant over here. And like, that was fun. We were enjoying the process of business more than going out and partying with everybody and enjoying the quote college experience. Right. And so it's not a matter of right or wrong. I want people to recognize that you can have great business success and incredible life success. It's choosing the journey that you want to go on versus over the destination, and surrounding yourself with people who also want to go on that journey or sell people on that journey. This is why we talk about having a big vision, which is the beginning of all planning, right? Having a vision and a mission and building that vision big enough so that the people around you can see their visions fitting underneath it, Garrett.
Well, so I will share a little bit more about the gentleman that I was kind of alluding to, that basically had a great income, dropped a little bit. Like I'm not going to share him exactly because I don't want to put him on point here. He's a great friend of mine, still a great friend of mine. And but what's interesting is he had made an income of upwards of about $700,000. And we were doing business planning, and he was like, I just had my best year I've ever had. He's like, that was the best year. He goes, at the same point, he goes, I've never worked so hard in my life. I've never put in more time to the business and growing this business. He said, at the end of the day, he goes, I don't want to do that again. Like that's not where I am in my life. This is not how I need to be spending my time. And so what we did is we wrote out the business plan, going, one of the main factors of this is to travel and start planning trips and putting trips on. Where do you want to go? And he even said to me, he goes, I'm okay making less money. Like that money was great. It's not what I need to fund my life. He goes, if I have to make a little bit less to obtain this goal. Now he actually said, if I make $150,000 less, I'm okay. And if I look back on it, I would have said, don't own, because he actually made $150,000 less is what he did. It worked out perfectly. That's kind of what he ended up at.
You don't need to own that affirmation, but at the same time, like, totally good.
Because at the end of it, he's like, it's kind of funny that I actually said, like, I'm okay making $150,000 less.
And you're like, yeah, it is kind of funny that you said that. And that happened.
Exactly that. But what was fascinating was, and that's where we ran into the issue of being able to share the numbers, is that it looked like his business was failing. The gentleman I was sharing the information with was going, well, what happened to his business? Why did his business fail? And what my answer is he took 11 weeks of vacation, 11 solid weeks, one in Africa, one in Mexico, one up in Canada. I started and the conversation went to, but we can't quantify that. Like that's not something we can write down and share easily of comparing to other people. Yeah. And this is where I was like, but this is it. Like, this is what we have to share. We have to quantify it. We have to figure out how to talk about this, because this gentleman who made $150,000 less, $150,000 is an income that a lot of people would like to make. He made $150,000 less and said it was the best year he's ever had, the most financial success personally, felt good about it. And then plus the memories, the pictures that I have of him traveling and in the middle of the desert and all kinds of crazy stuff. That was one of the most fun journeys I think I've been on with a coaching client, was watching this thing come to life. And when I look at it, it's like, that's the year he's going to look back on. That's the year he's going to look back on and say, that was the best year I ever had in real estate. Potentially. He's changed all kinds of stuff up in his world now. Real estate is not the number one focus for him. He's living an amazing life. But when it came to balancing this life and business, like, that was the most fun year to watch. So cool.
Well, I want to lean on that though, because that's the point. Goals change. Real estate's not even the primary focus for him anymore, right? Yep. And I know a lot of you listening, and I get it. I love it when I hear people say, gosh, I love this business so much, I'll do it until I die, right? I don't think you want to be doing it. Most of you do not want to be selling real estate past retirement age. I know that, and it's okay to admit that and acknowledge that. It's okay to say, hey, this is a vehicle for right now. I love it. I'm passionate about it. That makes it even better because that's going to allow you to have great success with it. But if you set your goals solely on that, it's going to keep you trapped in what anybody thinking, like whether you're going to go through business planning or not, thinking about how you approach your business of what are you doing outside of it to build the life that you want to have. If business is a big part of it, awesome, embrace it, right? We've talked about Alex Hormozi on the podcast. Clearly somebody who loves working, loves doing business, and has a spouse who loves it just as much as he does, which makes it an incredible journey for the both of them because outside of work, like life is great because everybody's on the journey together. Mm-hmm. And when you set life goals that create a journey for yourself, you get more clear in your business. And I think what's interesting about a dip in business and all these things, when you start looking at some successful agents, it's, well, what are they making adjustments for so that things can be sustainable longer term? And there's two ways to look at it for you. Am I building a long-term business? How do I adjust that and then start to remove myself from it so I can have the life that I want to have and the business survives? Or do I have a really amazing job right now that is helping me fund life, which as that evolves, this is going to change and kind of maybe wind down or turn off at some point. And that's okay too. And I do think the industry, Garrett, pushes so much on like, well, you have to build a business. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to survive after you. And it doesn't have to. It can. You can build a team and a brokerage and all that stuff. You can if you want to, but it doesn't have to. And this is where looking at, what do you want it to look like when the dust settles? When the business dust settles, what do you want it to look like? And if you get clear on that, it's going to be a lot easier to build a great plan to get you there and fund that process as well.
There's a lot of ways to sustain yourself after you decide to leave this industry. Like, again, yes, you totally can build a team, have a business, have that thing keep going. At which point I find that there's a lot of ways to do it. Some of those, you still are in the loop. You're still having to check back in and kind of make sure that that thing's running. You don't really get to walk away. There's some where you sell the business. There's some where you hand off your database. You just take, referral fees out. There's lots of ways to do this. The other side of it is while you're going through the journey of real estate, maybe it's collecting as many income properties as you possibly can along the way. And at some point you're like, look at this. I've got 15 rental properties producing $2,000 a month, all paid off. This is what my real estate business built for me on the backside over here. And you know what? I just want to travel now. Like, I just want to go. I don't want to worry about all this stuff. And whether you sell all those properties, you just have them as reoccurring revenue. This goes back into, what are you building? What do you want this to look like? Because the gentleman, one of the reasons that we stopped coaching, and it's quite funny, is most of our coaching calls started happening from the golf course before he was going out on it. And he would take a picture like down the golf course being like, getting ready to go out right now. And I'm like, are you working anymore? Like, what is going on? Or I would get a last minute photo from like, sorry, in Barcelona right now. And it's like, dude, but that's where he got himself to in this business, has afforded him to be able to live that type of lifestyle. And I think that's not normally talked about. That journey of getting to that place and that type of freedom to have that type of life, it's incredible. And that's what we should be going for. That's what you should look back at and go, this thing that I built over here, amplified my relationships with the people I loved. It amplified the relationships with my children. It amplified this life and these experiences I get to go have out here, not sacrifice them. So at the end of it, you're going, great business, but I got to figure out how to pull this stuff. I got to figure out how to fix my health now. Great business, but I destroyed my health through this whole process. And now I'm sitting here with all these medical issues, and I can't even go enjoy the life that I've been working so hard that I thought I was going to be living right now. We need to be planning ahead. We need to be thinking about that next place of where we're going to, and how are we going to make sure that we can enjoy it when that time comes.
And I think it helps you get clearer on the business goals, because the flexibility of business, like you said, getting in and starting to accumulate investment properties. I talked to an agent the other day who was like, I'm getting more commercial, like, referrals and stuff, which is new for me. Is like, I guess that's just being in the business for so long, but she's also somebody who's just very open to a lot of things. And when you get so strict on this is just the goal, it's just business, that's the only thing, you also close yourself off, particularly in the real estate industry, to other opportunities, to learning things. And I'm not saying that you should not be narrow focused, because there's, at different stages of your business, there's obviously different things you want to tune in on. If you go too wide in the beginning, you're going to be spinning your wheels a lot. So take this with a grain of salt. But if you're building a long-term life goal, it's going to help you narrow in the short-term business goals. Because you might say, you know what, this is the year that I am going to strap down. I'm going to build a routine that still allows me to take care of my health and my relationships, but I'm going to put in 60 to 70 hours a week. I'm going to go and I'm going to hustle this year because of X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to do it in a way that allows me to be making a step towards this bigger goal that I have. Or maybe it's the complete opposite. I'm going to work out how I can work 30 hours a week this year. If you're open and you have this life goal, it allows you to then structure a business goal so much more succinctly, which at the end of it, it's going to help. It's going to put a big smile on your face too.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be like, hey, that was worth it. I did what I came here to do, and everybody else was on board with me, and I enjoyed the journey, and the journey is still going.
Yeah. Again, the opportunities are all around us to build whatever you guys want to build. And when, with Matt, we talk about affirmations, and affirmations are one of those things that I watch lots of training industries out there that'll say, okay, like, we're going to write an affirmation, and it is always, always, always an income affirmation that they teach people how to build, usually when they're doing business trainings, business seminars. And it's always I enjoy, or I make, or I earn X amount of dollars. And I've talked with so many people over the years that they're like, yeah, I've got that affirmation, and I do my affirmations. And the more I ask questions about it, it's like, all you have is an income affirmation? Like, that's it? And I just had a conversation with a gentleman I coached the other day, and he's like, yeah, but if I'm going to pick one and write it 25 times, like, that's what I'm going to be able to focus on right now. And I'm like, well, we got to come up with a way of, like, I don't want you to stop doing that. Like, that's a great plan. That works.
Yeah.
But is your life bigger than just making income? Like, what if we wrote one about your relationships? What if we wrote one about your personal wealth building and income, that you make off investments? What if we write one specifically about your travel and the what you get to see in this world out here? Because you can build a well-rounded life. But what I watch is when somebody writes an affirmation that's only drilled in one direction, well, you wonder why you get hyper-focused in that. You wonder why we just build all these results around this. And then at some point, you're like, okay, that's working, but I got to go fix all this stuff over here. Okay, so now, like, I need to focus on my relationship. I need to focus on this. Maybe I need to take a break from that a little bit because I got to do some more things over here. Maybe it's time that I travel, and I'm going to have to sacrifice maybe my business a little bit so now I can go travel. We get in this place where we're having to fully make a turn and correct. And what you get in the opportunity of business planning is taking that moment of saying, before I have to correct, let's make sure we're focusing on all these areas. And yeah. I love that our life has all these multifaceted pieces that make it what it is, that we can focus on and bring in. And Matt, you've talked about it ever since I first met you. I had never heard somebody talk about the harmonization of life and business. And then I remember when you first said it to me, and you just kept bringing it up, and you're like, it's not a balance. you said when it's a balance, you're always taking away from one side, putting it on the other. And then when you want to balance it back out, you got to take a little bit from this side and put it on this side, which is how a lot of us run our businesses or our lives. And that term harmonization for me that's what I've always been helping people try to do. I just didn't know what the name was or how to kind of like focus on it like that. That was a changing point for me of just like, oh, that's what I needed to hear. That's what it is. That's how we have to approach it. And I love what we've been able to do with it at Life at 10 Tenths. And you talk about putting in the hours, man. Like we went into this building this new business and we both said like, this is not like we're just going to sit back and like this thing's just going to grow. And it's like, we're going to put in some hours and we're going to put in some time. And we're at a place that you got young kids. I got kids that are off in college and, living their life that I'm still very involved with their world. And it was one of those, like, are we willing to sacrifice a little bit right now for a long-term gain? But also the hours that we've put in here this last year, like I look at it and go, I don't think we're going to have to put in those hours long term as the machine gets going and and I think this is having that long term vision, Matt. This is knowing what you're building, knowing where you're going. Not this, I'm created this grind that is going to be the grind forever if I'm going to continue to be successful. And unless I'm grinding like that, I guess I'm not going to be successful. That's the trap. And that's what I'm hoping everybody, as we go into business planning, comes into it with the bigger picture right now.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think the trap comes along with having a metric as your identity, right?
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
That's where these income affirmations, they're not bad. That's great. Like I got income goals. I got a vision board over here that's got some numbers on it, right? Yep. But it also has other stuff on it because if you become defined solely by that, then you're rewiring your brain with an affirmation. So we do want to be very careful about what we are focused on. And I do find that when people focus solely on an income affirmation, and it's hard to teach and train because when you're trying to do a business course, you're like, cool, let's just talk about this. But if we're then leaving everyone with, you're only focused on money, there's so many other things that are going to get, put off to the side. You're going to start idolizing money potentially because you're rewiring your brain to do that, which is, maybe going to impact your faith in a higher power. It might impact your personal relationships because now all of a sudden money becomes the most important thing. And I'm not saying it's bad to focus on money. I want to be very, very clear because we're even talking about a gentleman earlier who was making 700 and reduced his business to 550, which I know a lot of people would still love to have, and I get it. That said, you can get to these high numbers. You can have the $1 million business if that's what you're looking for by focusing on the identity of the life that you want to create, because that's going to help you figure out, how do I fund that life? Because if the identity that you want to create is a $1 million lifestyle, you'll figure out how to fund that through your brain. But if you're only focused on building a $1 million business and nothing else, your brain's just going to be focused on that, and it'll do whatever it takes to get there. It'll also do whatever it takes to get to that lifestyle, which is interesting when you think about it that way.
So this goes back to a conversation I had with my dad. This is, oh my gosh, it's hard to believe that he went through cancer for as long as he did. It's amazing how that time kind of like squishes together. But when you really have to think about it, it was about, I think it was 8 years ago that I went, ripping up to Grants Pass to go check on my dad because I was told he had cancer. And I was told that he had about a month to live. And he lived for 8 years longer than that, by the way. And what was really interesting is I remember driving up there and I was sitting by his bedside and we were just kind of reminiscing about life. And I've talked about this on an episode in the past, but we were talking about life and what we're doing, where business is at and where the kids are at and all this stuff. And my dad and I were catching up on all the memories of fishing trips and going to the racetrack and all the fun stuff that we did when I was a kid with him, even as a young adult. And he asked me, it was right during business planning. I remember we were just kind of coming out of it. It was right around, Thanksgiving time is when this was all happening. And he said, how's business going right now? And I said, oh, it's good. I said, I love this time of the year. I said, I'm also very frustrated with this time of the year. I said, because I watch people that are going through re-looking at their business plans, and they'll set a goal for themselves, and they might come in just shy of it, like just shy of that goal. And they will look at me and go, business was great this year, but I failed. I failed in reaching my goal. I failed at hitting the numbers that I wanted to hit. I failed at this. And you can hear it in their voice. Their energy is just, it's horrible. And like, I got to figure out how to hit my goals next year. I got to figure out how to get there. And I would sit with them and go, do you realize you did $600,000 in income this year? I understand that your goal was 650. I understand your goal was 700, but let's stop and look at like what you created. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go, I missed my mark. I want to figure out how to get there next year. But you can't let the energy tear you down. I remember talking to my dad about this, and he said, one thing that's missed so often is that if you build a plan that allows you to enjoy the journey, you'll never fail on your goals. You're on a journey to these goals, and the trick is to build the plan that you can enjoy the journey. And I will never forget those words. I'll never forget sitting by his bedside when he said that. And it's something that I took away from that moment of going like, that's the real secret sauce. Is that, you can push and push and push and get to these goals. And I've had a lot of people that change some of their goals to, let's stop focusing on a January 1st to December 31st goal. What if it's a rolling goal that every single month you drop a month, you add a month in, and what I want to be running is a $500,000 a year business. Well, great. We're constantly building on it. We're constantly improving every month. We're improving every month. How close are we to building this rolling $500,000 a year business? For some people, like that changes it from a point of failure to a point of always growing, always figuring out how can I be a little bit better? How can I fine tune this a little bit more? How can I do that while having more time with the people that I love? Let's adjust this a little bit on this journey, on this path. It's never an end. There's never we arrived at the destination or we didn't arrive at the destination. It's just this constant improvement. And I've tried to get a lot of people to switch to that type of mindset. But the problem is our industry and everything around us and all of our peers and all the ones we surround ourselves with, we all do this annual business plan, we set the annual goal, and we all either high five or commiserate at the end of whether we hit or we missed. And there's just, again, we could beat this up all day long, Matt, but I hope people got where we wanted to go out of this.
Well, and I just want to highlight what you said there, because that's been an awesome shift that we've made in the past few years of getting people to focus on that rolling goal and kind of removing the calendar year. I know we do business planning at a particular time of year. I mean, we have to choose when to do it. But what I love with what we built with the GPS is helping people build a guiding principle plan, right? A plan that is not just hey, from this date to this date, we're going to do these things. Although that's in there, it's developed around, hey, how do I want to build sustainably so that it is kind of this pace goal and living this, business and lifestyle that are harmonized together. Now, yes, there's seasonality that we take into account, but I just love that we've been able to make that shift, and I think it has helped a lot of people. So even for you right now at this point, I'll say this as a nice little takeaway for you. If you're looking at your year and you're like, gosh, I'm not going to hit my goal this year. Okay, that's all right. What's your pace right now? And we did a whole podcast on this, I believe, last year. Just look at your pace. How are you doing? What can you do to be operating at the pace that would get you on that goal if you extended it out 12 months? And what you'll find too is like, ooh, if I just work up to that pace, I'll find the little nuance. And sometimes we do find, Garrett, people set these big goals, and once they see the diminishing return of how they've structured it for themselves, they're like, yeah, I'm good at this level actually, because I can see to get to that, there's a big diminishing return on this area of my life. So I'm going to just restructure some things financially with my investments and all those stuff so I can still hit this overall wealth goal that I have while earning a little less, quote unquote, because now I'm going to have a much more time over here. And when you're looking at the pace, it helps that, because if you're trying to make up 50% of your goal in 25% of the year, you're talking about a completely different plan. Like that's not the same plan you built before. We're talking about probably more action, more hours, more things, or more investment over here. Like that is a different plan than what you built before. So focus on the pace.
I have
That's
an
gonna
agent
help
I'm
you get through the
coaching.
end of the year.
I have an agent I'm coaching right now, Matt, that we basically she had a really stretch goal that she put out at the beginning of the year. And it pushed her managing broker. It pushed her brain was like, the managing broker was like, I don't know about this. And we sat down and I saw all the writing on the wall. Like it was an attainable goal. Like it was like, but we got to get serious like right now, like get rolling, because it's one of those that as you get farther through the year and all of a sudden that time frame starts squishing down of when you're going to make that number hit, it all of a sudden becomes more and more apparent as you go through, where your subconscious brain starts going, now you're really not going to hit it. Like I am now believing we're not going to hit it. And then it gets really negative along the way. So you got to be very careful. So we were having a coaching call the other day, and she had that, you could hear that tone in her voice of like, I think I don't know if I'm going to hit this thing. And, but then she follows it up with, but I did just have an amazing month. I said, well, what was your month? She goes, I did 81. She first said 60,000. And then she's all of a sudden her daughter in the background goes, oh, you forgot this transaction. And she like adds it up. She goes, oh, I have to add one more in. She's like, it was like 80,000, a little over $80,000 a month. And I had to stop her and go, do you realize what that means? Like you just showed me that you can create $80,000 in 1 month. It wasn't the market. It wasn't the special thing. This is literally just happened. It wasn't just handed to you. Like this is like some fluke that happened. Like you created that by doing the right systems and showing up. Now that you know that, what happens if you create another one like that? What happens if you create another one that's just half that size? And you said, okay, I don't need to create $80,000. What if I just created $40,000 months? And all of a sudden that pace, Matt, that pace will land her in the income bracket that she has put out as this big stretch goal for herself. And it's like, oh, now you know you can do it. These are the things we need to start to understand. But very easily, she could get to the end of the year going, failed. I knew it. I knew that I wasn't going to hit it up front. And she wouldn't have acknowledged that she's actually on pace to do it. Which what happens is that tears you down. You lose your energy. You start self-doubt again. I don't know if I want to set that goal again. I think I'm going to set it a little bit lower because it just was frustrating not being able to hit it. You were on pace. Like, so it's crazy how it all works. And Matt, I know, just to wrap this up, with doing the business plan the way that we've done it, the way it's set up is that, yeah, we do this annual plan, but inside of our community, inside the 11 Circle, what's been so much fun is our quarterly breakdowns, bringing everybody grounded back in during the quarter to be like, okay, our success lab for this week is we're talking about business plan and grounding ourselves out where we have. We've already done 3 of these this year, Matt, with now business planning being the 4th to round it out again. Next year, we're going to do it again. We're going to have 3, hitting on the quarter, and then the last one's going to be, let's build a business plan again. It's been so much fun to be able to build that into this journey for people, because I know it keeps people better on track. It keeps people better focused. You get better results.
Hands down. So
anything else we want to add to this?
I mean, there's so many. I actually have a lot more thoughts in my head.
I know, we're spinning now.
That's another podcast topic. We can do a separate episode. So we'll leave you guys with this. Think about what you want things to look like when the quote dust settles as you head into this season. We'd love for you guys to join us on our business planning if that's something that you're interested in. It'll be great. But whatever you do, whatever planning you do, if your office has it, whatever it is that you do, think about that long-term thing, because I think it's going to help you build a much better plan.
So as Matt said, if you want to go check it out, go to our website, we've changed our site here right now. So
both still work, but
they all work. 10tenth.co is where you're going to want to go to. And with that being said, Matt, this has been awesome. What a great episode for today. For all of you listening out there, thank you so much for participating in this. If you're not following us on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out tremendously. Send your friends. text your grandmother and say you should check out this podcast on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe and the like button. Whoever you got to send it to, send it to. Again, can't tell you how much it helps us out. And again, we appreciate all of you. Thank you for being on this journey with us. I appreciate all the wonderful messages. Matt does too, that we get when we call people and they tell us what the podcast means to them. Keep sharing that with us. It means the world to us. It keeps us going, keeps us energized. And with that being said, have an amazing day. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.